keep calling, I ain't picking up. Through with conversation, done with games, now you know I'm giving up. I didn't have to be like this, but you made me. You got everybody around me out here thinking I'm crazy. Now our past changed our future, and that's breaking my heart.
It's me, SimbaTv. Bang! What is good, YouTube fam? It's your boy Simba coming back here again with another reaction video for you guys today. For today's reaction video, we got authorities decided to drain this river, but didn't expect to find this at the bottom. Now, man, if you guys are like me, when it comes to body of water like that, I'm always like, I wonder what's down there. I wonder what's been down there for hundreds of years, you know, all this time. What's down there? We gonna find out. Let's go.
Rivers are bodies of water that provide excellent habitats and food for many creatures on Earth. Rivers gave us better routes for commerce and recreation, as well as drinking water, irrigation, and more. But they also hide many secrets. A lot of shocking things are discovered in rivers all around the world all the time, and here are some that will surely surprise you. From the mysterious woman of River Seine to the ominous hunger stones in European rivers, here are the 15 scariest things found in rivers. Number 15. The Woman of River Seine. The discovery of the unknown woman of the Seine dates back to the late 1880s. It's not a recent discovery, and yet it remains to be one of the most mysterious river discoveries in history, and the woman remains unidentified to this day. There's a chance that you've already seen her face without knowing. After all, she became one of the most famous women after her death. For many of us, death begins the countdown of when we'll be forgotten. After we die, there will come a time when there is no one left to remember who we are or what we did. And
that was dark. I never even thought about that, honestly. That was kind of dark there.
Yet, it was incredibly different for this unknown woman of the Seine. For her, death marked the beginning of her legacy, and her life remained largely unknown despite her fame. Her story began with her death in the late 1880s. Paris was a bustling city, and almost no one noticed the body of a young woman in the River Seine. Fortunately, someone finally did. It didn't take long before an entire crowd gathered with morbid fascination to take a closer look at the young woman. The body of the presumably 16-year-old girl was immediately transferred to a mortuary where her body was displayed behind a glass window, which was a common practice at the time. Many hoped that through this, the parents or anyone who knew the deceased would come forward. But in the end, no one did. The body of the young woman was immediately inspected by a pathologist, but her body showed no injuries or any problems. The most intriguing, however, was the fact that her face was frozen in the form of a half-smile that didn't look like she struggled or drowned before her death. The pathologist who examined the unknown woman was so taken with her that he ordered a plaster cast to be made in the likeness of her face, and this was the beginning of her fame. Her subtle smile led to her being compared to the famous painting The Mona Lisa, and she became a French icon. The mask made from her face was reproduced many times and was sold in souvenir shops across Paris until it eventually spread to the rest of Europe. Poets, writers, painters, and many other artists were inspired by her face. Her fame, in time, slowly died down. And it wasn't until a famous toy maker, Asmund Lerdahl from Norway, created a plastic doll with her face that her fame exploded once again. Now here's where the story gets interesting. Lerdahl had a 2-year-old son who almost drowned. But luckily, Lerdahl managed to somehow pump the water out of his airways. And so when a group of doctors talked to Lerdahl and asked him to make a doll that could be used to demonstrate a new life-saving technique, the toy manufacturer readily agreed. This was the beginning of the resuscitation technique known as cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or CPR. It took Lerdahl a long time to determine how he could make a doll that could be used in medical training. But one of the biggest questions was the face he would give the doll. And one day, the face of the drowned woman of Seine came into his mind. The doll was given the name Rescue Anne, or CPR Annie. She's not the only resuscitation doll available on the market, but she is one of the most widely known. And today, people often call her the most kissed face in the history of mankind. The circumstances of the unknown woman of Seine remain unknown to this day, and perhaps it shall remain that way forever. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button and click the notification bell right now. Number 14. Roman Brothel Token. It's not unexpected to find a lot of coins in canals, lakes, and rivers. After all, we have the strange tradition of wishing for things by dropping pennies not only in fountains, but also in other bodies of water. The coin that the authorities discovered in the River Thames, however, was incredibly rare. They found a 2,000-year-old Roman coin, but instead of the face of a ruler, the bronze token showed a man and a woman in an intimate embrace. When historians examined it, they concluded that it was the very first example of a brothel token found in London. Initially, historians thought that Roman brothels didn't exist in London, but after the coin's discovery, they now think that perhaps the establishments existed in London during the Roman invasion of Britain in the 1st century AD. Number 13. 400-year-old time capsule. Shipwrecks are always among the most interesting underwater discoveries of all time. The most interesting shipwrecks are those that have been submerged underwater for centuries. They tell us a lot about our past, and they often carry a lot of important artifacts. Unfortunately, many of them don't last for long underwater, as they easily decay from being submerged, or they get destroyed by wood-eating creatures known as shipworms. For this reason, this shipwreck discovered in a German river was considered a gem by archaeologists when it was first spotted. The shipwreck was first discovered in 2020 during a routine sonar survey in Traub, Germany. The wreck was between 66 to 82 feet long, and the most amazing thing about it is that it capsized almost standing. Archaeologists estimate that the shipwreck is more than 400 years old.
Damn.
And it's amazing that it withstood the test of time, even after centuries. The layer of mud that covered the entire wreck may have prevented shipworms from eating the submerged wood. Perhaps it was also because the shipwreck conveniently sank in the predominantly saltwater part of the river. Archaeologists deduce that the ship dates back from the Hanseatic period and was used as a cargo ship by Northern European trade guilds that traversed the Baltic and North Seas from the 13th to the 17th centuries. Unfortunately, no treasure was found on board, but the archaeologists did discover more than 100 wooden barrels with traces of quicklime. In the 17th century, quicklime was made by burning limestone, and it was an important ingredient for the mortar used in stonework. In the end, this heavy cargo most likely caused the ship to sink, although it was still almost standing mast up, which also contributed to its rare and incredible preservation. Number 12. Spanish Stonehenge. Valdecañas Reservoir is on the Tagus River in Spain. In July 2022, the reservoir revealed an amazing monument known as the Spanish Stonehenge. After getting hit by one of the worst droughts in more than 5 centuries, many bodies of water in Europe receded and decreased in water level. The Valdecañas Reservoir is among them. The diminished water level revealed a prehistoric circle with nearly 100 stone megaliths officially known as the Dolmen of Duodelparol. Just like Stonehenge in Wiltshire, England, this prehistoric stone circle is shrouded in mystery. Archaeologists believe that it was built around 5000 BCE, and it's only been rediscovered recently.
That definitely looks man-made. Like, that's not natural. Like, at least I don't think so.
It was originally discovered in 1926, but before it could be studied or protected as an important landmark, dictator Francisco Franco ordered for the dolmens to be submerged in 1963 as part of a rural development project. The mysterious dolmens temporarily boosted tourism in the area, but the drought led many people to lose their livelihoods. Unless the reservoir is intentionally drained or the dolmens are moved elsewhere, their appearance will always signify drought and hardship for many of the locals. Number 11. The Boiling River of Death. Did you know that there's a river in the world that kills everything that falls into it? This is the Shinei Timpishka, also known as La Bamba. It's said to be boiled by the heat of the sun, with its temperature ranging
by the heat of the sun?
Is the Shinei Timpishka, also known as La Bamba. It's said to be boiled by the heat of the sun, with its temperature ranging from 45 Celsius to a scorching 100 Celsius.
God
Any
damn!
unfortunate creature who falls into this river will surely suffer from light to severe burns. The locals near the river have long been aware of this deadly river, but the rest of the world only learned about it when a geothermal scientist decided to explore the Amazon and find out whether the boiling river really existed. In local legend, the river was produced by Yakamama, a giant serpent spirit that's also known as the Mother of the Waters. In reality, however, the boiling temperature of the river comes from a geothermal source. It's common to find hot bodies of water near volcanoes, but La Bamba is quite different. No volcanic activity occurs near the river. and the water is only heated by the Earth's mantle. Unfortunately, due to deforestation around the area, the river is slowly shrinking, and it could completely disappear one day if the habitat and land aren't protected.
Wow.
Number 10. Loch Ness Monster Fossil. In
I believe in the Loch Ness Monster, y'all. I really do. I believe it's still out there. It's a real thing, okay?
1933, a local couple claimed that they had seen a massive animal rolling and plunging on the surface of Loch Ness in Scotland. This news somehow found its way to a local newspaper, and several days after that, more and more people claimed to have seen the monster of Loch Ness. It reached a point when a circus offered a £20,000 sterling reward for anyone who could capture the beast. But despite the hefty reward and the increasing curiosity about the said creature, it remained to be an imagined existence to this day. But if there is proof that the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie, really did exist, it would be these fossils discovered on an old ancient African riverbed. Nessie was described to be a prehistoric-looking creature with a long neck, and the unverified photos of the creature resemble a plesiosaur, a prehistoric reptile that lived millions of years ago. The fossils of the plesiosaur were discovered in a 100-million-year-old river system in the Sahara Desert. What's astounding about this discovery is that plesiosaurs were initially believed to have lived in salt water, and yet their fossils are found in freshwater systems. Could it be that the plesiosaur is living in Loch Ness today? Unfortunately, it's quite impossible that the alleged monster living in Loch Ness is a plesiosaur, as all of them died along with the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. But who knows? Number 9. Cold Case. One dedicated YouTuber and modern technology finally solved a cold case after more than 2 decades. On April 3, 2000, 18-year-old Foster and 17-year-old Betchel attended a party together, drove home together, and were never seen again. Initially, the parents of the 2 teenagers weren't worried until several days later, and they didn't hear anything from the 2. They immediately contacted the authorities, and everyone searched for days, weeks, and years.
Wow.
But no one ever found Foster or Betchel, or the car they drove that night. People had their own theories as to what happened, but no one could find anything that could lead to the missing teens. The disappearance of the 2 teens remained to be a mystery until 2021, more than 2 decades after the 2 teens vanished. In November 2021, Jeremy Bowe spotted a car in the Calf Killer River. It was pretty close to one of the victims' houses, and he decided to scan it using sonar. It was then that he spotted a 1998 Pontiac Grand Am, and not far from it were the remains of the 2 teens, who after 2 long decades were finally found.
Wow!
Number 8. Fisherman finds mysterious statue in Spanish River. In 2020, a fisherman in Galicia, Spain made a shocking discovery in the river. The fisherman was fishing in the River Sar when he stumbled upon the strange artifact by chance. While walking, he noticed a strange-looking stone near the river, and when he examined it further, he noticed that it wasn't ordinary. He discovered what seemed to be a religious statue. He immediately reported the statue to the authorities, and after being examined by the experts, the fisherman was shocked to hear what he had just found. According to experts, what he found was a moss-covered 700-year-old Galatian Madonna, or a Virgin Mary statue. The statue made of granite weighed 330 pounds, and it depicted the Virgin Mary with an infant Jesus in her arms. Unfortunately, the statue was incomplete, and the face of Mary and the head of baby Jesus were missing. None of the experts could determine how the Madonna ended up in the river in the first place, although many had their theories. Some people claim that perhaps it was deliberately damaged centuries ago to try and desanctify the statue, while some claimed that perhaps the Madonna came from an asylum that was near the river centuries ago. It could be that it was accidentally broken and was carelessly thrown into the river. Number 7. The mysterious East River Monster. Perhaps the most mysterious creature discovered near a river is the East River Monster.
Bro, why did that thing look like a rat at first? Like an evil rat.
It's carelessly thrown into the river. Number 7.
Tell me that don't look like an evil rat, shark, like what type of... that thing nasty.
The mysterious East River Monster. Perhaps the most mysterious creature discovered near a river is the East River Monster. A couple walking along the East River accidentally stumbled upon this monstrous creature. The carcass had no fur and was extremely bloated, presumably after being submerged in water for a long time. The strange creature had monstrous teeth tiny eyes and tiny ears. Its body, however, resembled that of a wild pig and a dog combined. Needless to say, conspiracy theorists immediately latched onto the strange creature and started formulating theories to explain what the creature actually was. Some claimed that it was an animal hybrid, a failed science experiment, or a monster. But some chose to take the logical route and claimed that it was the body of a dog or a pig that became extremely deformed after being submerged in the river for a long time. What do you think this creature is? Do you have any ideas?
I don't know, but I don't
Let me
like
know what
it.
you think in the comments down below. Number 6. Voodoo dolls.
Oh, nope.
Regardless of
Nope.
whether you believe
Nope.
in black magic or not, anyone would be creeped out if they found terrifying dolls just like
Yeah.
this. Several people were spooked when they found a strange box in Edinburgh during a cleanup operation. Inside it were 4 dolls wrapped in fabric and string.
Nah, see? I'm good, bro. I'm not touching that. I'm not going near that. I don't want to breathe on it. I don't want to look at it. Nothing, bro. I'm out. You find the box and you open it up and you see that? It's done. You're done. It's game over for you. You might as well give up. You're done. You're done.
The red and black box was eerie enough, but the strange symbols etched on it, as well as its contents, made the alarm bells go off in the volunteers' heads.
Yeah, I believe
After
it.
all, the volunteers expected to find trash like plastic, bottles, bikes, and even mattresses in the river, and maybe even some artifacts. But they didn't expect to find intact voodoo dolls. But what exactly
crazy,
are voodoo
bro.
dolls? And why are they so creepy? These are usually humanoid figurines with pins inserted in them. Voodoo dolls are used by many cultures around the world, although these dolls are more popularly used in depictions of voodoo in Western media. They're usually used to meddle with black magic and inflict harm on anyone associated with the doll. Their depictions in the media often lead many to be terrified of these dolls. Number 5. MURRAWONG Bone Point. In 2021, a strange bone artifact was discovered near the lower Murray River in Australia. Known as the MURRAWONG Bone Point, it was a sharp-pointed object most likely created out of the bone of a kangaroo or a wallaby. Archaeologists estimate that it was used to pierce through cloaks or even as a makeshift projectile between 3,800 to 5,300 years ago. And now it's time for today's topic. Authorities decided to drain this river, but didn't expect to find this at the bottom. In 1802, Canal Saint-Martin was constructed under Napoleon I's order. It was originally constructed with the intention of getting water from the river Ourcq, which would help decrease the risk of dangerous disease obtained from unclean water like cholera and dysentery. The canal officially opened in 1825, and to this day it connects Canal de l'Ourcq as well as the River Seine. It's no question that a lot of things end up at the bottom of the Seine and the canals. In 2015, the old canal of St. Martin was drained about 14 years after its last cleanup. Aside from 4.5 tons of trout, carp, and beam that made the river their home over the years, the authorities also found a lot of shocking items at the bottom of the canal. Hundreds of bicycles and wine bottles were among the muddy remains at the bottom of the river. Aside from that, they also found a Viking sword and a headless snake among all the rubbish. Perhaps the most surprising discovery, however, is from an earlier cleanup. Not one, but 56 cars were yanked up from the bottom of the canal.
56?
Despite the fact that there was only rubbish that had been submerged in water for a long time, several people tried to jump down into the empty canal and search for their lost possessions. Do you know any other shocking things found at the bottom of a river? As always, comment down below with the hashtag today's topic and let us know your opinion about what we just showed on screen. With that said, let's keep things moving. Number 4. Old Ball and Chain. It's not often that we discover something horrific in rivers, but from time to time, we discover something that tells us the morbid story of someone who lived in the past. In 2009, archaeologists were both amazed and baffled when they discovered a perfectly preserved iron ball and chain in the River Thames in London. The rusted iron ball and chains were still intact when it was pulled from the mud. The lock was still fastened, which meant the prisoner who was locked to it drowned, died, and decayed. This is the only well-preserved ball and chain lock discovered in Thames, and it's more astounding to think that this dates back to the 17th or 18th century. There have been many stories across Europe that talk about prisoners or slaves who had tried to free themselves from these leg irons, which usually weigh up to 18 pounds, by sawing off their own leg. This meant that even if they somehow managed to escape, they would inevitably die from their wounds, or they would have lived in pain for the rest of their lives. Although the story that could possibly be connected to it is macabre, many archaeologists still think that the loch was an astounding and rare artifact. Number 3. Dinosaur tracks. In the early months of 2022, severe drought conditions revealed incredible footprints that were left behind by some of the most fascinating creatures that ever lived on Earth. These are footprints left behind by the mighty reptiles from around 113 million years ago. These tracks were discovered at Dinosaur Valley State Park in Texas. It was only uncovered after the water level on the river diminished significantly. So far, the footprint of an Archocanthosaurus and a Sauroposeidon have been found in the park.
Really?
Archocanthosaurus was a two-legged dinosaur with a large head, sharp teeth, and strong but tiny arms. They were estimated to be about 5.8 metric tons and about 10 feet tall. Sauroposeidon, on the other hand, was a massive long-necked dinosaur that weighed between 50 to 60 tons and stood at a staggering height of 112 feet. Just imagine two semi-trailers stacked on top of each other. Unfortunately, experts claim that it might not be long until the dinosaur footprints disappear due to natural weathering and erosion. Number 2. 600-year-old Buddhist statues. Aside from Europe, China was also hit by a massive heat wave in 2022. The heat wave was incredibly bad, to the point that it affected even the longest river in Asia, the Yangtze River. Yangtze River isn't only the longest river in Asia, but it's also the third longest in the entire world. That's why when the water level plunged to record lows, many were incredibly alarmed. But it seemed like the drought didn't only bring bad luck. The low water levels also revealed previously unknown Buddhist statues in the river. The 3 Buddhist relics were estimated to date back to the Qing and Ming dynasties, making them more than 600 years old.
Wow.
The tallest of the statues shows a monk sitting in a sacred position on a lotus pedestal. Beside him are 2 smaller men. According to experts, the statues might have been built in the middle of the river to bless boats passing through. But as the water level of the Yangtze rose, covering the statues, they were slowly forgotten. Number 1. Stones that bring bad omen. Centuries ago, droughts meant famine, wide-scale death, and destruction. Today, however, we can manage the receding waters a little better. We've invented dams and reservoirs. Most irrigation systems in the world are capable of managing and supplying water to plantations despite decreased water supply. Drought is still a problem, although we have reached a point where it's not as alarming. However, it seems like people of the past left something behind for us to remember what happened during their time and what could happen to us if we're not careful. In 2022, stones with strange engravings revealed themselves after a massive drought hit Europe. The stones read, "If you see me, then weep." These stones with grim inscriptions were allegedly called the
Hell no. No, imagine being the person that found that and you're reading this and you're like, say what? If you see me, weep. Basically saying, it's your time to go. When you see this, when I appear, when this stone, you start seeing this stone, it's time for you to go. You're done. You're done. That's some scary stuff, bro. That's a scary ass message.
hunger stones. Many of these stones are alleged to be found in Central European rivers. They were made many years ago as markers to watch out for, especially during historic droughts. These stones were markings that people created to warn others, as well as future generations, that famine and death would soon follow once these inscriptions appeared. We don't know the exact period these stones were created, but the earliest readable year found on the stones dates back to 1616. Some stones without dates carved on them date back to 1417 and up to 1893. These stones have been submerged once again, hidden by the water. Hopefully, no catastrophic damage will occur the next time these stones reveal themselves. What do you think about these underwater discoveries?
Bro, man. That's crazy, bro. Those are wild. If you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button for me. Thank you guys for commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.